a function for this session. Welcome everyone. As you just heard, I'm Connie, coming to you from my home in Calgary today, and so we're going to spend a little time looking at Lexis Plus AI, but also a little bit on more traditional research as well, because among the things that you'll see here is that there are some advanced technologies that are actually at use in connection with this part of the platform as well. So I'm going to start by showing you an example of something, of a function that we refer to as answers, where it relates to using extractive artificial intelligence in order to obtain an answer. So I'm just going to go ahead and paste my question in, and you can see how I've phrased that question. So, does negotiating in good faith and impose an obligation to reach agreement? Um, I don't have to be, too concerned about including a question mark or any of that other kind of thing. But just asking a question like this in natural language, then actually goes and, among other things, it's going to be retrieving cases for us. But it also is going to give us one other thing, and that is this answers box that appears here at the top of the screen. So what we're seeing then is a response in judicial language to the question that I asked. I find that this is just a really excellent way to be able to perhaps confirm that this is exactly what it is, this is what my memory says this kind of thing is, or maybe there's been a change and I need to know about that, and so it's a way for us to be able to see that kind of thing. So here we have this very first entry in the response list: Ross River Dena Council, Supreme Court of Yukon from 2017. There are also more answers. And so I'm able to see that we then are getting responses from other courts, other judges in connection to this particular answer, or this particular question. From time to time, of course, there are situations where a jurisdiction becomes really, really specific to a particular situation. So we can go ahead and actually apply a jurisdiction like that. And in this particular case, I'm just going to actually select Northwest Territories. And we'll see, of course, that we have many fewer cases now, but now the answers are focused solely on responses at Northwest Territories courts. And so it's all of that kind of thing that can really make a difference along the way, and gives us the opportunity to just make sure that we are, getting something that is going to be relevant to what we need, and very much there depending on the area of law and whether or not the provinces and territories actually have a primary jurisdiction on certain kinds of things. And so that is one of the things that I wanted to be able to show you. Here I'm going to go ahead and just click on the Lexis Plus logo, pardon me, Lexis Plus AI logo. Something else just to be aware of at this stage is that there is a persistent navigation bar here at the top. And what that means ultimately is that all of the information you see here is present no matter where you are in the system. And that can mean that you have performed a search and you're looking at a list of results, and then maybe you realize, oh, I included a word that I didn't intend to, or maybe I have a typo, maybe whatever it is. And then I'm able to go ahead and just click on the Lexis Plus logo. It brings me right back here, and we can carry on with things. We have some other opportunities as well. There is a spot here to be able to apply a client matter ID, so that if we're wanting to be tracking research that we're doing, maybe for the purposes of cost recovery, that we can actually be associating that kind of thing. We have access to any folders that we might be creating where we're digitally storing information from the system. We can see a lengthy history of things, and other sorts of resources that are available here. Down the left-hand side, we see in this doc 6 pillars of different kinds of things that we can do. You can see that at the moment I'm selected at legal research. We then also have practical guidance, legislative pulse, brief analysis, Legal News Hub, and at the very top where we're seeing Protege. Protege is the latest evolution in connection with the AI in Lexis Plus. And so we'll be talking a little bit more about that here as we go. Before we get to that spot, though, I wanted to mention a few other things, such as being able to explore for content. And so here, for example, we would have a way to begin by browsing to court decisions or pleadings, motions, and facta, browsing to legislation, to secondary materials of all kinds. Then on the practice area tab, here's where we have an increasing number of practice area collections that are full of secondary materials that are relevant to these various areas of practice. So for our purposes today, I'm going to just show you the natural resources law collection, but it could be any of these. They are similarly organized, and that you'll see that there is commentary, that there are texts, the relevant legal encyclopedias for that area of practice. Then we'll also get down to current awareness materials and drafting materials, case summaries, all of these kinds of things that are relevant to a particular area of law. And again, the kinds of things that we are able to see in a situation like this is really up-to-date information. And so here, as we are continuing to have a look, here under the heading of commentary, these resources are updated on a regular basis, much like a magazine subscription. So if I wanted to know, for example, about environmental regulation in Canada, if I click on this little I, it's going to show me that this particular title is updated 7 times per year. And so that just becomes a really important part of things, especially if this would be an area of law in which I am working. And so if I go into that particular title, and there we go, let's get into it, that we're then able to see the kinds of resources that are included in the table of contents, all kinds of different sorts of things. We have the ability to search in any of these titles. There's one other thing that I'm able to do with this that can be really beneficial, especially for these things that have that category of commentary, is I can actually create a subscription to this title so that when it gets updated, I get an email notification saying such and such title has been updated, and here's a one-click access link to that title. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that here by clicking on the little bell to create an alert. The title becomes the subject of the email message. And one thing I have started to do, just so that I don't just ignore the email message, is I'll just say update to, because now it reminds me of why it is that I'm getting this. And so that it just, oh yeah, I need to go in and have a look at that kind of thing. And then setting this up on the deliver tab, where we would be entering our email address, add ourselves as a recipient, and selecting as updates are available. And then 7 times per year, Lexis Plus AI sends you an email message saying this title has been updated and here's access to it. Now, one last thing just to be pointing out here is by default, the subscriptions are set to be no more than 2 years in duration. And the thing that is really important here is that in the couple of weeks before, in this case, July 11th, 2027, I would be receiving notices from the system saying, this alert is about to expire. What do you want to do? And so you can either then allow it to expire or go in and change the end date on all of that. So there, I'm just going to go ahead and create the alert and give us that kind of thing. So every one of these practice area collections has these kinds of materials. But again, associated with all of these different areas of law, and of course there's some crossover and different kinds of things. But it's one of those things that if I was talking with students at this point, I would be saying to them, carve out a few minutes every week and just go and explore, learn more about what's available to you and how you might be able to be using it. From there, just a quick bit on searching, something I wanted to just show you here, and just continuing with my environmental example. So here I am using the Boolean operator and with regulate with a stem on it, so I can get regulate, regulation, regulating, regulated, all of those kinds of things. So I'm just going to go ahead and perform that search. So from here, now, of course, seeing that we have more than 10,000 cases. Something else I wanted to just point out to you, and this was something new with Lexis Plus, is that there's a little search tree that you see here that can be really helpful in identifying if you have the correct words. An example that I'll often use will have the word royally rather than royalty. You know, it's one of those typo kinds of things. And then if you look at things in this way, you're able to actually see that there are a bunch of cases where the word royally is included, but that it doesn't relate to environmental and regulation or to oil and gas revenues or whatever it might be. And so then just being able to quickly go in and correct for an error along those ways. So again, from here, being able to apply a jurisdiction filter that goes along with any of these kinds of things. So from here, again, selecting Northwest Territories. One of the things that I always find interesting in looking at this list is we do see through the provinces and territories here, nearly 25,000 cases that relate to my search terms. And then as you move through, you see the various numbers, and then Northwest Territories has got 98 cases. And something else then also to be showing is that if I click on the plus sign here to the left, that we're able to see the different court levels that apply to all of this sort of thing. And so being able to see that, you know, where we have the different kinds of things and maybe in fact your focus would be solely on the provincial and territorial courts or the superior courts or the appeal courts, all of those kinds of things, just giving you different ways to look at the information, find what is going to be most valuable to you. So, of course, from any of these things, we can be going into have a look at any of these court decisions, be working our way through them, seeing what sorts of things are going to be valuable to us. Um, we also have the ability, now that we've created this much smaller pool of information, so these 98 cases, now I also have the opportunity to be searching within this smaller list. And so if I just take a look for something related to enforcement, for example, that it now brings us to 28 cases. And so what we're doing is, of course, getting more and more manageable all the way along. And from here, of course, being able to then go in, have a look at the various cases. You can get a sort of a preview on things with the treatment signal that's attached. And if I hover on this one, it shows us that neutral treatment is indicated, and you know how things were handled at the courts. We've also got so here the orange triangle with the exclamation point in it, where it's cautionary treatment indicated, and different kinds of things. And there's the red stop sign where it's negative treatment indicated. So all of those kinds of things can give a bit of a preview on what sorts of things might in fact be going on. I won't go through the noting up process, but I did want to just make sure that I showed you about some of those kinds of things that are available to you. Did also want to mention things about getting access to legislation. And here I'm going to go back to the content type tab. And we have ways to be able to browse to legislation. And so here under legislation, if I go to acts, this brings me to a page where I'm able to select the jurisdiction and the statutes for that jurisdiction. So if I open up Northwest Territories, and then we're able to get to all of the legislation that has been made available to LexisNexis Canada. We're able to see, you know, things in connection like with the Arbitration Act or the Adoption Act or the Access to Information and Protection of Privacy Act. And so here we have something that is specific to that jurisdiction. This is in addition to the federal Access to Information Act that is already available. Anytime you're seeing the light blue circle with an L, tells us that the courts have been looking into some part of this legislation in connection with one or another cases that they are working on. So sometimes browsing to legislation in this way is the way that you're going to find it. Maybe somebody says to you, "Hey, check out such and such," and they give you a name that's not 100% correct, or you just don't hear it correctly, or the notes you take are incomplete, whatever it might be. So sometimes needing to browse in that way. In other ways, when you do know exactly what you're looking for, we can change how we're searching. And so here you can see in this drop down list, I'm changing my focus from cases to legislation. And then I can actually go searching in this way. So I can go to the Access to Information Act and to a specific section and then be able to see the kinds of things that are available. So we do have a lot of content related to the Access to Information Act. Some of it is actually right to the entire part of things. Um, the one that we are actually wanting to look at in this case is item number 3 on the list, Access to Information Act, Section 13, information obtained in confidence. Now, if I wanted to at this point, it would not be difficult for me to go back and actually view cases where the courts have been looking into these parts of legislation. So I'm going to open this up. And among the things that I wanted to make sure that I showed you here is that we're able to actually get a lot of details. So in addition to the actual text of the legislation, we have a current version statement. And so this is telling us that this particular provision was updated September 1, 2023. And then we also see this current to July 2nd, 2025. This basically, and here as I open it up, you can see that we're looking at the consolidation of the public general statutes of Canada. Basically, I'd like to view this as being LexisNexis Canada promised to you that what you're seeing here is 100% accurate. And so it's a way to be able to just ensure that you are seeing the most recent information and that there are no changes going to it. And you can see again the full text of it. We've got, paragraph 2, subparagraph AB, paragraph 3, subparagraphs along the way here, all of these kinds of things. And then at the bottom, the editor's table that now shows us the fact that this particular provision has been updated frequently since it was first enacted. And there is that most recent change that was included. This editor's table corresponds to this point in time section that you see on the right-hand side. So let's say you are working on a file where events occurred prior to the September 1, 2023 date, that then you would be able to get back to the older version of that legislation. So all of those things are just good to know about. Then we can see the full version, and so here now becomes a downloadable PDF of this particular statute, and so and then it's fully searchable, and you're able to just simply use the Acrobat tools, the Adobe Acrobat tools, to be able to handle all of this kind of thing. So there's a lot of information that is available to us. One thing just to quickly show you about how this relates to the legislative pulse part of things, which is the monitoring of legislation part of the platform. If I click on View Bills Affecting this Act, it actually is going to take me to Legislative Pulse, and it's going to show me what legislation is having an effect on what's going on with the Access to Information Act. And so here we're seeing most recent federal legislation, this Bill C2, the Strong Borders Act from June 3rd, 2025. And then as we make our way down, we're able to see other kinds of things that we're all aware of, like the Online Streaming Act, the Online News Act, the Online Harms Act, which to me, one of the things that's a bit interesting about Bill C63 is that it was introduced in February of 2024 and has not moved from first reading in the House. It's still just sitting there. I won't go into further detail on that, but I wanted to make sure that I showed you how we're able to see what's having an effect on different kinds of legislation. Moving then to the brief analysis tool. The brief analysis tool is intended to allow you to, well, take a document of your own, maybe something that you worked on for a file 5 years ago, or opposing counsel documents, or other kinds of things, where you're just wanting to see, are there some things that maybe have changed since the last time that I was working on something like this? And so from here, I'm actually going to take a document that I've got loaded here or ready to go, and I'm just going to drop it right into there. And so, just giving you an idea here, this is Word document is 39 kilobytes in size. I mentioned that specifically because here at the bottom, you're able to see we can support up to 20 megabytes per file, that we have these different types of documents that we can be supporting. And the PDF now also includes the scanned image files, and so all of that kind of thing can be just worth knowing about as well. So another important thing here, just with the security measures that are applied in this situation, is so that you can be loading a document that has personal information in it, knowing that within 10 minutes, that document will disappear from the system. So nothing gets saved to Lexis Plus AI. It's intentional in that way, so that it can be used for the initial analysis, but after that, it's gone. And so here I'm going to go ahead and just click on upload. It goes through a 4-step process, including a virus check, extracts information, retrieves the recommendations, and presents us with this dashboard. And so the dashboard shows us that it has, as part of that process, it identified 25 concepts that it selected, but the fact that there are 20 others identified. So we do have the opportunity to modify that. Right now, there are 144 recommendations. These are the jurisdictions that are applied. And we're also able to see what's already cited in the document. And so from this, I could, for example, if I wanted to put a check in the box here, I've got my documents selected. I could go ahead and download all of these right now. I could email them to myself, print them, add them to a digital folder. So there are all of those kinds of things that I could be doing. Now, if I just go back to the dashboard, let's say, for example, that I want to change the jurisdictions. And so I'm going to take this, I say, we don't want the Supremes in this one. And we want to have the province of Ontario in this example, and that it would be the non-appeal courts. So I'll apply those jurisdictions. Any changes that you make to something like jurisdiction or concepts can have an effect on the number of recommendations. It doesn't always, but it can. And the same goes for changing the legal concept. So here we have a total of 40, and maybe there are things we would just simply say, okay, we're not so concerned about City of Ottawa and Court of Justice, but we're concerned about matter of public interest and statutory power. Now, when I make that change, again, it has the possibility of changing the number of recommendations. Again, it did not in this particular case. Now, if I want to see what these recommendations are, I go to them, and down the left-hand side, we see this search term map that then anything that's got that bright blue background tells us that there are recommendations there. And so as I make my way down, you see that the bright blue here becomes a light blue. And so for this particular section that's highlighted in the light blue, there are now 10 recommendations for it. If we continue down, we have Ms. McGraw here, who's involved in all of this, and 10 recommendations that go along with this. So if I click on it, it opens this side panel that then allows me to see maybe some other kinds of cases. So what I've got here is a FACTA in connection with a particular case. And so this is the actual court document itself in connection with it. Doesn't always happen that way, but then as we make our way down, we see, and I'm not even going to try on that name, but again, we've got keywords, we have outcome information, and then the relevant passage from this decision, something that we might be able to use in perhaps building an updated argument or a new argument, however we might want to be working with it. Now, if this happened to be opposing counsel documents, you might find something that they missed and be able to use that as an opportunity. Always that is going to be a beneficial opportunity. I think that that's going to be worthwhile. Now, as I said, when we started this, looking at brief analysis, the document that's being analyzed will disappear from the system. And so the only way that I can retain this information is to either deliver the list, and here, depending on how I prefer to work, deliver this list, which is going to be this group of 10 for this single passage, or to deliver the full report for the 144 documents that come into play, or 144 recommendations. And so here we have this default file name of full delivery.pdf. You can make it into something more meaningful, download this, and then be able to work with it and use this just simply on the basis of the fact that it is now here, and I can be going through, having a look at it, giving a try, doing any of these kinds of things, seeing what are the relevant passages in these other recommendations that I might want to take advantage of. Okay, moving along, since we do not have a great deal of time here, I'm just going to go back over to Lexis Plus or to the Lexis Plus logo and just briefly on the Legal News Hub, where we are able to be keeping up to date on all legal news in the country. In this left-hand side here, we're basically focusing on featured items that we're able to see. Then on the right-hand side, we're seeing the most recent publications that have come through. Sometimes you'll see judicial appointments, or somebody new has joined a law firm, like this one here, Harper Gray adds 2 new associates. And so it's ways to be able to just keep the Canadian legal world up to date on a variety of things. You also have the opportunity to be searching, and here I'm just going to blow my own horn for a moment, and then here you're able to see the different kinds of things that I've been working on. Most of you would not know that I started my professional life as an orchestral musician, and so the music and law thing has really become a feature for me. And so among my favorites is this one about operas with legal themes, and being able to see what all of these things are. And so whenever you open something here, you can share it by email. You can do a print or save to PDF and share it that way. So there are lots of ways to be able to get to that kind of information. So as you can see, there's a whole lot that is available to you. Now, moving to Protege. So this is Lexis Plus AI with Protege. And the Protege is among several of the really great advancements here is the fact that we are able to create a personalized experience. And so as you can see, let's create an experience that's tailored to me, the individual. So if I click on Let's Go, the very first thing, I asked me to confirm, do I want to personalize it? If I do, then yes. If I don't, that's fine too. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead with yes. What's my preferred name? And so this is all related to my login credentials, and so very very much related to me, and the rest of the world doesn't get to see it. And then I choose what is my role. And so making a selection here, and for my purposes, I'll just select other. And then if I click next, what is my drafting style? And you can see here that the dynamic one is recommended, but you also have these other options that are available. And then lastly, on the next, I can apply a default jurisdiction. I'm going to not include that, just because that way it's always giving me a little bit more freedom. Now that we've done that, of course, we have the ability to then get going with all of this. And if ever I want to be changing any of those selections, I can do that by going to these three dots here and the settings. And from those settings, then selecting the protege options and making choices. Maybe I have a different role. Maybe I want to use a different drafting style. All of those kinds of things. So again, taking that kind of thing into account. So Lexis Plus AI with Protege. This is a generative AI legal assistant that's been crafted for legal professionals. This is very intentional. And one of the things that's really, really important about it is that it is using a closed ecosystem. In other words, it's not scraping the internet. It is focused solely on the content that is available to you in Lexis Plus. And so, and with that, you get verifiable, citable authority. You've got responses backed by linked legal citations, and there are humans in the loop. LexisNexis Canada and in fact LexisNexis Global has a team of individuals whose job it is to verify and validate insofar as they can. What kinds of things that we are. What kind of responses are we getting? So I'm going to begin here just with a little bit more information on what we see on the screen. There are 4 types of tasks that we can perform. So we can ask a legal question, and there are some examples here at the bottom. And we have the opportunity to be saying, I want to ask that question in relation to a particular jurisdiction. So here I'm going to go ahead and select Northwest Territories and apply that. And the question I'm going to put in, you'll see it here as I'm just pasting it in. Client diagnosed with terminal illness, but very concerned about the health custodian, maintaining control of information. What are the privacy concerns and risks? This is a really efficient way to make sure that you're looking at the most recent information. So I'm going to go ahead and just press the enter key on that. It begins generating the response and begins to give us relevant information. Oh, for some reason, it is applying the jurisdiction of Ontario, which is just sort of an interesting thing. I'm going to have to take that one back to the powers that be on why we're getting information from a different jurisdiction. Because when I was preparing for this session, it was clearly staying with Northwest Territories. But you're seeing here that it begins to search for information, and then it delivers this response. And so here, as we are able to then be seeing, just scrolling up, the client's concerns about all of this, and being able to see information coming from secondary materials. We have, and also from legislation in this particular case. So we're able to see Section 11 of the Personal Health Information Protection Act, and a hyperlink to it. And so then also being able to see where we have, there's an article and other kinds of things that go along with this. And so a few other things to be, taking note of along the way here is that down at the very bottom is that we have some suggested sort of next steps that we might want to be taking. Or if we already, maybe on the basis of the response that we received, we have a follow-up question, or we had already thought about it. So here I'm going to just drop in another one. Under what conditions might my client's request for access to their personal health care information be denied? And so here getting, following up on all of these kinds of things and getting more and more information that might be worthwhile. And so being able to see that kind of thing. And so for some reason here, it has now switched to Ontario. I'm going to, as I said, I will report that to the powers that be to make sure that they get that sorted. But again, getting this kind of response. Something else, of course, to be taking note of here is that whatever response that you see, that is a starting point. It's always your job to go in, verify, validate from your own knowledge by checking on cases and things along those lines. It becomes really, really more important than ever to be doing that validation piece. And because there just the other day, again, there was another situation where cases had been fabricated and in that particular case, it was somebody using ChatGPT, not Lexis Plus AI, to take care of that kind of thing. And so here again, seeing that we now have supporting content. I'm a librarian, and so I like to think of this as the bibliography. It makes sense to me. We're seeing that we've got some things out of law reviews and journals, Halsbury's commentaries, court decisions, and other kinds of things that go along with each and any one of these things. Now, for every one of these responses, we're also able to see related materials, and so here we have 6 cases that are in support of the response that has been generated. We've got legislation, we have practical guidance content, we have secondary material. So there are all of these different things that are going on. And right from here again, if I wanted to at this point, I can go ahead and download, email, print. And so all of these things become very useful to me in terms of being able to, again, more validation, more verification on what might be going on there. I'm going to go back to where we were a moment ago and just to show you again more of the integration. Here I'm going to select this McInerney v. McDonald and open that. And so this is now actually going to open that decision, so we can be going through and doing all of the usual kinds of things that we might want to be doing. Something that is very, very handy, and you'll see it here in the upper right corner, is this protege button. So if I click on this, it opens this side panel that allows me to see, this is the responses that I have received thus far. And from here, maybe I want to perform one of these suggested tasks, or maybe I now have another legal question. And so I'm able to kind of be doing this sort of thing side by side, again, for efficiency reasons, and being able to see what's going on in that protege panel, as well as comparing with what I'm seeing in this decision on the left-hand side. You, of course, don't have to use that panel, but it is there as a way to be able to work with it. And now I can either click on the back button, or if I click on just the Lexis Plus AI logo, it takes me back to where we were. And we could then be continuing with this kind of thing. One other thing that is really quite interesting and fun with all of this is being able to ask the same question, but now with a different jurisdiction. So let's just say, for sake of argument, I'm going to say that I want to have Alberta be the jurisdiction, and so it applies it, and then it starts running that series again, or under this most recent question about what it is, but now relating very specifically to Alberta instead. And so it is kind of an interesting thing to see how all of that works, because sometimes the question is going to be valid in one or another jurisdictions and give us that uh, kind of good information that we might want to be using. And so here again, we're getting response information, being able to see what sorts of things are going on. Always with the hyperlinks embedded, so it's always really easy to be able to get there and to work with it. If desirable at this point, I have the opportunity to copy this information and drop it into an email message, into a Word document, whatever I might like to be working with it there. From there, I'm going to take us to a new conversation. I wanted to show you about a couple of other things that are possible. For example, to summarize a case. Now, a few weeks ago, there was a LinkedIn post about a woman at a mid-sized law firm who was using this particular function to review court decisions that opposing or authorities that court opposing counsel had put into a document, only to discover that opposing counsel had misinterpreted some of those cases. And so by using this function, and so here just dropping this particular decision or this citation in, we find this case, and in this example, we actually get an AI generated summary. So this is a document that did not have an editorial summary, one written by humans. And so we're able to see that we get the key legal findings, the jurisdiction, the material facts, issues, the law, the court rationale, the outcome, all of that kind of thing. And so it's just becomes a really efficient way to be checking on things. Say, is this going to be relevant to me? And again, in the situation where you might be reviewing authorities provided by opposing counsel, did they get it? Were they using it correctly? And if not, then perhaps to be able to use that as an opportunity in all of this kind of thing. So, there are lots of other possibilities here. The editorial summaries do not look quite the same, but nevertheless, they do give you a way to be able to get to that kind of information. I'm going to do another new conversation, and this time to the upload documents to summarize or ask a question. Here we have several different options. And some new functions that have become available to us. So, for example, if I was to take these two documents just like this and drop them here, I can now get summaries of these documents. I can ask questions about these documents. I can do, all of these different kinds of things. I also have the opportunity to create a vault. And now the big difference here, and the thing that's really important to take notice of, is that if I just go ahead now and ask a question about this particular example, and it could be, just as simple as in these documents, what facts are disputed. And so it's now looking at those two documents, it's analyzing them, and it's going to bring back these results. So in this example here, we're just looking at these two documents. We don't want to retain them for further use. We just want to be getting some kind of information that's going to be useful to us. We'll always be able to get the response. We won't be able to ask any further questions after that because the documents would need to be reloaded in order to do that. And that all being done in the face of security and privacy concerns and all of that kind of thing. We do also have the opportunity to be viewing these uploaded documents. And so from here now we do have this response. And so from the factum respondent versus factum plaintiffs, being able to see what the differences are, what are the disputed facts, and really being able to get good information right away. It's just all being summarized very, very neatly for us in this particular situation. Now, the other option is for me to, I could have, at the time that I loaded those two documents here, I could have created a vault. A vault is intended for longer term use. And so let's say that you're working on a file over a period of a year or more, and the documents keep getting added. And so here I've got a few examples of vaults that I have created. And in this example, I entered three facta, all related to the same case. And so from here, if I wanted to go and manage the vault, I can see what's inside that. So these are my three facta that goes along with this. I could at this stage delete anything that would no longer be relevant, whatever I won't want to be doing in that respect. On the other hand, and here, just getting back to, all right, that went to a place I didn't expect it to go. Just getting back to the upload and summarize. So at this point, I can just simply select my vault, and once I've selected it, so I have an idea about what those documents are. I have these suggested tasks that I could be performing. I can summarize the documents. I can draft a legal memo, draft a letter, email, argument. I can generate a timeline. And this is actually kind of a neat thing to be able to do, because it's going to take any year, month, day information and build out a timeline for us in the form of a table. And here you're able to see what that looks like. So starting in September of 1995, where we had the Ipperwash surveillance incident, then we have September 11, then we jump to 2007, and this is just on the basis of these three documents that it is giving us something that can just again be really, really handy. And there's that option to copy and then drop into another document. So all of that kind of thing can be just really, really efficient and helpful all along the way. Now, I am going to wanted to just mention one other function here that we haven't yet looked at, and this is the generate a draft function. There is a lot of new functionality that is available here, and this is a place where the protege evolution does a whole lot for us. And so you can see again that we have examples of the kinds of drafts that we can generate. Uh, we can be handling, and among the things here that have changed recently is that we can be drafting transactional documents, motions, in addition to arguments, memos, letters, emails, and clauses. And so there's some new functions there. And so here again, selecting my jurisdiction. And in this example, I am in-house counsel for an energy company. The director of human resources has asked me to prepare an employment agreement. And then I give this direction to the system saying, draft an employment agreement for an individual who has accepted a middle management role focusing on environmental issues, include relevant clauses and terms as well as restrictive covenants. So um, because we are now drafting a document like this, it usually does take a little bit of time. But you can see, we are drafting a transactional document. The system knows that that's what we're looking for. We're evaluating, retrieving contextual references, evaluating requirements from the jurisdiction, developing, as you can see, it's sort of giving you a play-by-play all the way along. And giving us just details of the sorts of things that we can be looking at. And giving it its moment there. And now writing the first draft. And so it's, as you can quite imagine how this kind of thing might go along, and how you might be doing this on a one-by-one basis. Probably have a template of some kind, but here really, and then we get down to assessing before it's now going to actually give us a document that we can be looking at and editing on the page. I'll show you what that looks like here in just a moment. refining the draft, and then we'll get something that we can be working with. I can tell you that you know, even though I know that this is actually going by very quickly, it always seems very long whenever I'm in a presentation like this. And then generating the final draft, and let's go. There we are. All right. So now in the left-hand panel, we have this employment agreement. It's just continuing to load, which is why it's hopping around on me just a little bit. So we now have this document. From here, I would be able to go in and get started with any editing. So at this stage, just being able to insert today's date. And so depending on my preference, I'm just going to say that it's going to be July 11 July 2025 between whomever, whatever company, and all of these kinds of things, address information, and continue on making our way down where we're then able to see other details, what's the start date, doing any of this kind of thing as we are making our way through. Then as we come down, we get to other types of resources. So here, for example, with this um, duties and responsibilities here, I'm selecting that entire text. And when I do that, it's going to give me these drafting tools that allow me to simplify, condense, expand, or redraft entirely, however it is I want to do that. So when I select this, it now actually goes through the process of another prompt, but focusing on that very, very specific section. And so now seeing the expanded version of all of this, and if I'm okay with it, and or mostly okay with it, and I'm ready to do it, I can simply take this information, replace it in the original document. I also have other options that I might want to be doing, and so here, looking at some of these other kinds of things. So again, just taking this particular section, and maybe I might want to simplify it or redraft it entirely, whichever one of these kinds of things, and then being able to really uh, get a document that I can be happy and that I'm satisfied with, that I'm working with, doing all of that kind of thing. And so here again, I'm just going to go ahead and replace that with the information. So we continue to make our way through all of this. Um, Today, at the very bottom of the document, we should be seeing an option to. Actually, we don't see the option to copy this right now. So the thing that we would need to do here is just a Control All to be able to get the entire document. Then just using Control C to do the copy and paste into a document. Right now, there is not a button that will do that for us, and so that's why having to do the select all and then the copy and paste. That button is forthcoming. We're just waiting on it right now and looking forward to when that's going to be. And so then I'd be able to take this, drop it into a Word document. If there's any additional formatting I need to do, I can do it there. Whatever it might be, things like a logo on the first page, all of that kind of thing, being able to take care of those sorts of resources. Now, at the top of this document, I have the opportunity to save this. So, are you sure you're done editing? They'll be saved for draft in future purposes, for our future reference. So, if I save it, that gets taken care of. And then when maybe I go back and I'm looking at something else. In fact, I earlier today was looking at, some generating a draft of an employment agreement. across all jurisdictions in Canada and then identifying unique, so something else entirely. But if I come back to this, you can see here there now is this opportunity to open what I was working on in drafting mode. And maybe now I continue making some adjustments. Maybe I have a little bit more information on something that I now need to include, or other sorts of details. And so being able to do most of the work here in Lexis Plus AI with Protege before I do the export, and get that information into a Word document and then offered to, the employment agreement offered to an individual. So there's a lot of good ways to work with this. And in the end, the best thing that you'll be able to do for yourself is, assuming that you will have access at some point, to be able to get in there and just give a try, try out things, um, push the boundaries, do all of those kinds of things. What can I do? Where am I getting stuck? What are things that I might want to be working on? So I'll go ahead and just do a save and exit on that. Um, are there any questions on anything at all that you've seen here? Seems like there aren't any. Uh, Jessica, at this point, anything that you want to add here as we wrap up?
Hi, Connie. Sorry, my camera is not finding me, but I am here.
No worries.
Thank you so much. That was really, I can't believe you packed that much into hour. Unbelievable. It's like you've done this before. Oh, there I am. Yeah, this is all really exciting. Um, I'm surprised we don't have any questions. Actually, I'm not surprised we don't have any questions because that was a really comprehensive overview.
All right. Well, if anybody does have any questions, please don't hesitate to make contact. I'm happy to try to address them, show different kinds of examples, and be able to just give a better idea, maybe in relation to a certain thing. Sometimes that can make a difference.
Oh, that was awesome. It's incredible what 6 months can do, honestly.
Really, really.
Unbelievable.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and just stop the recording at this point.
Okay.